Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I am Rochelle Thamodar. Let's start off with a look at the headlines for tonight.
Sri Lanka's future is optimistic. The IMF states that even those who have left the country will have opportunities to return. Petroleum distributors deny fuel station closures. The CID is investigating the fuel distribution issue and questions the distributors. Doctors strike postponed. The health minister explains the salary increases for doctors in parliament. Three armed nurses strike on the 6th, says UNP Kesbev organizer Saman Ratnapriya. If issues were resolved during their tenure, why strike now? Questions Murutettuve Thera. Sajid to lead the local government elections, says SJB. Talata seeks young candidates for the UNP. Taking a look at those stories in detail now, the International Monetary Fund has highlighted the significant progress Sri Lanka has made under the IMF program. Peter Brewer, Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, noted that the country's reserves have already reached about half of the program's objective, which he describes as very impressive. Speaking to reporters from Washington, D.C., he noted that there is no room for policy errors.
Just to highlight the fact that reserves have increased significantly so far under the program. They have reached about half of the program objective already, which is very impressive. On the question with respect to the anticipated IMF recovery targets, so I think it's quite clear that things really have turned around significantly in Sri Lanka. I mean, you all live there, so you experience it much more than us. But when I first got to Sri Lanka in June 2022, everybody was standing in a line somewhere, to get fuel, to get cooking gas, to get food or medications, and economic activity was very subdued. I think in real terms, Sri Lanka lost 10% or so of its economic activity as a result of this crisis. And since then, in the short amount of time that the program has been there, basically since 2023, it has already recovered 40% of the income it has lost in the preceding 5 years. So in a very short amount of time, you have already a very significant recovery. You have the most recent growth number of 5.5%. So I think things are turning around significantly in Sri Lanka, and that will have an impact on the indicators that we care about, such as poverty. So as economic opportunities return to Sri Lanka, incomes will increase and poverty will be reduced, and also it'll be more attractive to remain in Sri Lanka and not leave and emigrate, or those who have emigrated may find opportunities back in Sri Lanka again. So, as you look at our projections, we have increased these quite a bit for 2025 and beyond. And so, based on these, I would say I'm quite optimistic about the recovery in Sri Lanka.
It has come to light that the Sri Lankan government plans not to proceed with the imputed rental income tax as a revenue measure. So has this been discussed with the IMF, and is there any other alternative that is being put forward? And at the same time, what is the IMF's take on the budget that was presented recently?
Imputed rental income tax was a measure proposed by the previous administration as part of a possible revenue package for 2025. And the new authorities have proposed a slightly different package that is aligned with their mandate and priorities. And staff and the authorities have assessed that this package is sufficient to meet the revenue targets under the program. Now, of course, should those measures prove insufficient, then additional revenue measures would be needed. And so that also ties in with the question on the budget and tax revenues. So yes, we have looked at the budget and have, of course, discussed it with the authorities. There is another important issue for the next review will, of course, be the budget. That the budget that is finally passed at the end of this month is, in fact, consistent with the program parameters. So this is something that we will be watching very carefully.
The International Monetary Fund has raised concerns regarding the recent reduction in electricity tariffs, which took effect in January. According to Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Peter Brewer, this reduction means that the cost-reflective pricing is no longer being met, potentially leading to financial losses for the Ceylon Electricity Board.
The electricity tariffs, so there was a reduction in the electricity tariffs in January, and this is when we feel that the cost-reflective pricing was no longer met, because on a forward-looking basis, that tariff cut meant that CEB wouldn't be able to avoid any losses. So these cuts essentially, at least on a forward-looking basis, implied that losses would be run. Now, of course, these profits and losses by the electricity company depend on many factors, including the weather, the rain, and so forth. So what turns out ex post may be different from what happens ex ante, but this is a concern that we have, because it could mean that debt starts building up again in the electricity company that could ultimately become a contingent liability for the government. This is something that, of course, Sri Lanka has experienced before, and avoiding this and making sure that consumers on average pay for how much it costs to generate and distribute the electricity is an important part of the program. And this actually also goes towards answering the question of what are some of the main goalposts for the fourth review. So ensuring that cost-reflective energy pricing is restored is, of course, a key part of what we would like to see for the next review. I should say there are some mechanisms that give us hope that this will happen automatically. There's the bulk supply transaction account, which is sort of a mechanism that is supposed to kick in when losses at CEB become too large, when their cash balances become negative beyond a certain value. Then there's meant to be an automatic increase in the tariff that would prevent these losses from accumulating. So there are already mechanisms in place. It's important that these mechanisms be allowed to function. And then, of course, at the next tariff setting, it's important to ensure that tariffs will once again be set to cover the costs.
The Petroleum Distributors Association emphasized that they have never closed any fuel stations and that such reports were made public by the media. Following a meeting with the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporations, they said that they have agreed to continue operating their fuel stations for the next 2 weeks under the new pricing mechanism introduced by the CPC.
We had
fuel available and the public came to get fuel. The media falsely reported that fuel stations were closed. Not a single station was closed. We continued operations as usual, even at a loss, to provide fuel.
Senior officials, along with the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, participated in the discussion with the fuel station owners.
During these 2 weeks, if we identify any shortcomings or necessary amendments in the new mechanism, the chairman of the CPC has agreed to address them. Both the Distributors Association and the Fuel Station Owners Association have agreed to continue uninterrupted fuel distribution. Currently, the corporation is paying 3 rupees per litre, doing away with the 3% rate. We have agreed to continue this for 2 weeks and then review and make necessary adjustments.
Yes, we
have decided to continue with the new mechanism. After 2 weeks, we will review and make necessary amendments if there are any shortcomings. We have reached a final decision based on the new discounted rates introduced. Within a month, we will be operating under this new scheme. If there are any issues, they will provide us with the actual costs, and we will meet again on the 18th of this month to discuss and resolve all issues.
Members of the Petroleum Distributors Association appeared at the Criminal Investigations Department today. According to the police, an investigation was launched into the complaint lodged regarding an attempt to hamper the distribution of fuel. Members of the Petroleum Distributors Association arrived at the CID at about 12 noon today to provide statements to the CID. The Government Medical Officers Association has decided to call off the token strike planned for tomorrow. They plan to go on strike citing concerns over the reduction of 2 allowances proposed in the budget's salary increase. This afternoon, the GMOA announced that they would not proceed with any strikes until the 21st of March, the scheduled end date for the budget debate. The GMOA had initially planned the strike in response to the reduction of 2 allowances. They claimed that the extra duty allowance, which was previously 1/80th of the basic salary, had been reduced to 1/120th of the basic salary with the new salary revision. Additionally, the holiday allowance, which was 1/20th of the basic salary, had been reduced to 1/30th. President Andrukumara Dissanayake had provided an opportunity for the GMOA to discuss these issues last Thursday.
මෙතන යම් ගැටලුකාරී තත්ත්වයක් ඇති වෙච්ච බව ජනාධිපතිවරයා පිළිගත්තා. ඒ හරහා ජනාධිපතිවරයා ඉදිරියේදී මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කඩිනම් සාකච්ඡාවක් සිදු කරලා ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අපිව දැනුවත් කරන බවට පොරොන්දු වුණා.
Following the President's response, the GMOA met separately with MP Dilith Jayavira and opposition leader Sajith Premadasa yesterday. During this time, the Executive Committee also convened and later announced the initiation of a strike.
මේ මතයට ඒකමතිකව කැමතිද නැද්ද කියන කොගොල්ලෝ අතුස්සල මේලා ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න. පස්වෙනි දා වෙනකොට අපි දිනදීලා තියෙනවා. පස්වෙනි දා වෙනකොට රජයේ තීන්දුව తీරන ගන්න ඕන.
This morning, the GMOA also met with former MP Partli Champika Ranavika and reiterated their intention to strike.
A
few hours after this meeting, the GMOA held another press conference to announce that they would be calling off the planned strike for tomorrow.
The President exchanged views with us today. Additionally, the Health Minister provided us with a special meeting to discuss this issue with the GMOA Executive Committee. The Health Minister requested a fair amount of time to address this issue. By the 21st of March, the government, led by the President, promised to present a solution during the final reading of the budget. Considering this request, we decided at today's Emergency Executive Committee meeting to postpone the strike plan for tomorrow until the 21st of March, the day of the third reading of the budget.
මාර්තු මාසේ 21 වෙනිදා තුන්වන අයවැය කියවීම දක්වා
Health Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa clarified in Parliament the steps taken by the government to increase salaries and allowances of doctors.
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි දැන් මේ හදන්න යනවා අමතර රාජකාරී දීමන අඩු කරලා ගියා එක්ස්ට්‍රා ඩියුටි එක පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්න මං කියන්නම් දැන් ප්‍රීමියම් ග්‍රේඩ් එකේ එක්ස්ට්‍රා ඩියුටි එක තියෙන රුපියල් 687යි අපි මේ අප්‍රේල් මාසේ දැන් වැඩි කරනවා රුපියල් 765 දක්වා ග්‍රේඩ් 2 වල දැන් තියෙන එක්ස්ට්‍රා ඩියුටි එක රුපියල් 796යි මේ අප්‍රේල් මාසේ දැන් වැඩි වෙනවා රුපියල් 925ක් මේ කියන්නේ පැය.
Honorable Speaker, they are trying to say that we have reduced the additional duty allowances. Currently, the extra duty allowance for the preliminary grade is 687 rupees. From April, we will increase it to 765 rupees. For grade 2, the current extra duty allowance is 796 rupees, which will be increased to 925 rupees per hour from April. Remember, this is per hour. For grade 1, the current extra duty allowance is 1101 rupees per hour, which will be increased to 1307 rupees from April. For a junior consultant, the current extra duty allowance is 1302 rupees per hour, which will be increased to 1542 rupees per hour. So no one can say that the extra duty allowance is being reduced. In fact, for everyone, the extra duty allowance will be increased from April, with some allowances increasing by 206 rupees. Generally, doctors receive a holiday allowance. We have also increased this holiday allowance. For the preliminary grade, the current holiday allowance is 2,714 rupees and 50 cents, which will be increased to 3,138 rupees, an increase of 423 rupees and 50 cents. For grade 2, the current holiday allowance is 2,915 rupees, which will be increased to 3,379 rupees. For grade 1, the current holiday allowance is 3,590 rupees, which will be increased to 4,189 rupees. For a junior consultant, the current holiday allowance is 4,400 rupees, which will be increased to 5,200 rupees, an increase of 800 rupees. Therefore, the holiday allowance will also be increased in April compared to March. In addition to the basic salary, extra duty allowances and holiday allowances, we have also increased the annual salary increment for everyone. The President announced that the annual salary increment of 250 rupees will be increased by 80% to 450 rupees. For doctors, this means the current increment of 1,335 rupees will be increased to 2,400 rupees. The current increment of 1,345 rupees will be increased to 2,420 rupees. The current increment of 1,630 rupees will be increased to 2,940 rupees. The current increment of 2,170 rupees will be increased to 3,900 rupees. So overall, the amounts I am mentioning are higher than what is currently received. For someone in the preliminary grade with a basic salary of 54,290 rupees, if they had a cross pay, they would currently receive 241,173 rupees. With the salary increase in April, they will receive 258,877. By January 2027, they will receive 283,165. This means that if someone did extra duty and PH, their salary will increase to 283,165. If someone with a cross pay of 257,870 rupees, their salary will increase to 319,307 rupees. For someone with a cross pay of 309,995 rupees, their salary will increase to 382,876 rupees. For someone with a cross pay of 352,740 rupees, their salary will increase to 444,400 rupees. Do you know how this increase will continue to grow? Our government has changed the payee tax. Accordingly, with the change in the payee tax, those who previously paid taxes on incomes ranging from 100,000 to 150,000, including some doctors who paid between 35,000 and 40,000 rupees no longer need to pay such taxes. Therefore, those earning between 100,000 and 150,000 are now fully exempt from taxes. Those earning up to 200,000 have a 72% tax exemption. Those earning up to 250,000 have a 62% exemption from the payee tax. Those earning up to 300,000 have a 46% tax exemption. Honorable Deputy Speaker, this has resulted in a noticeable increase in salaries for everyone. Therefore, I state that our government has provided the highest possible salary increment at this time. As the Minister of Health, upon assuming my duties, I first discussed with the GMOA officials. A few days ago, when the President raised an issue, he discussed it with the GMOA officials for 40 minutes. However, it was announced yesterday that they have decided to hold a nationwide strike on the 5th and an indefinite strike on the 7th, causing inconvenience to the patients. Honorable Speaker, given the current economic situation of the country, it is unfair to take such action after providing a salary increment. I urge all doctors not to act unjustly. I am ready to discuss with anyone, any association. Therefore, I request to cease from taking unfair trade union action that cause suffering to the general public.
මේ 6 වෙනිදා සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයේ වෛශේෂ්‍ය පදනම් කරගෙන 5 වෙනිදා දීප ව්‍යාප්ත වැඩවර්ජනයක් කරන්නත් 7 වෙනිදා අඛණ්ඩ වැඩවර්ජනය කරලා රෝගීන් අපහසුතාවට පත් කරන තීන්දුවක් ගත්ත බව ඊයේ ප්‍රකාශයට පත් වුණා. මම කියනවා ගරු කතානායකතුමනි රටේ ආර්ථික තත්ත්වය අනුව මෙහෙම වැටුප් වැඩිවීමක් ලබා දීලා තිබියදී හරිද මෙහෙම කරන එක අසාධාරණයි. ඒ අසාධාරණ කරන්න එපා කියලා සියලු වෛද්‍යවරුන් මම ඉල්ලනවා. මොන සංගමයකට සාකච්ඡාවක් නැති ඒ නිසා ජනතාව පීඩාවට පත් කරමින් අසාධාරණ වෘත්තීය ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්න එපා කියලා ඉල්ලීම කරන්න
Saman Ratnapriya, the organizer of the Kasbah electorate of the United National Party and former Director General of Trade Unions under former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, announced that the Government Nurses Association will stage a 3-hour strike on the 6th.
Minister Nalindra Jayatissa has been spreading false information in Parliament. The salary increases are merely psychological illusions. This has forced us to resort to trade union action once again. As the Government Nurses Association, we will stage a 3-hour strike from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the 6th. Additionally, we plan to hold massive protests in front of all hospitals at 11:30 a.m. While the government shows a salary increase, they have cut allowances on the other side, negating any benefit.
The profession supplementary to medicine has also declared its support to Ratnapriya's strike.
This government has cut allowances that were essential for our livelihood. We demand the restoration of our overtime and holiday allowance rates. We have called for a nationwide strike on the 6th, and we, as the profession supplementary to medicine in the North Central Province, fully support this strike.
The Public Service United Nurses Union responded at a press conference held today.
We were not informed and we are unaware of this. Saman Ratnapriya does not need to lead a struggle. As the Director General of Trade Unions, he could have addressed all of this.
Minister Dr. Nalindra Jayatissa reaffirmed his stance on this matter during the cabinet decision media briefing.
එක්කෝ අමාත්‍යවරයා විදියට සහ ජනාධිපතිවරයා විදියට ඔබ කියන දේ වෛද්‍ය නිලධාරීන්ට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔබ කියන විදියටම මේක පිටිපස්සේ යම්කිසි වෙන වැඩ පිළිවෙලක් තියෙනවා. ඒක බලා ගන්න වෙන්නේ මේ සෞඛ්‍ය ශාස්ත්‍රයේ.
This will be observed through the way strike actions in the health sector unfold and the groups leading them. Not everyone is involved in these actions. Furthermore, the Ministry of Health's budget is scheduled on the 6th, and it is clear that nothing substantial could be achieved by the strike on that day. If they are planning to proceed with an island-wide protest, even after 4 days of discussions with the President, despite the salary increments we've provided, we cannot do anything further. Therefore, our focus must be on the welfare of the public, as we had not communicated this earlier. It is essential to present these statistics to both the medical officers and the public for their understanding. If you can understand what I am showing through these statistics without being doctors, there is no reason why the doctors cannot understand them. A member of the Nurses Union who worked under President Ranil Wickremesinghe's administration is attempting to spread misinformation by claiming that the salary for April will be lower than that of March. This is how false perceptions are being spread among the public. I am urging you, do not panic. The government will continue to function. The salary for April will be released between the 8th and the 10th. You can verify who is telling the truth. It is only 3 groups in the health sector who have announced that they will not accept the salary increments and will proceed with the strike actions.
මේ වැටුප් වැඩිම පිළිගන්න බැරුව වෘත්තීය සමිති ක්‍රියාමාර්ගවලට යනවා කියලා අනවුන්ස් කළා තියෙනවා.
A group of unemployed graduates staged a protest at Polduwa Junction located along the road leading to Parliament today. The protest was held during the parliamentary debate on the budget of the Ministry of Labour.
A group of unemployed graduates from all 9 provinces of the island initiated a walk near the Rajgiri flyover, calling for employment opportunities. Although the 2025 budget promised to provide employment opportunities for 30,000 unemployed graduates, the protesters highlighted that over 35,000 graduates are currently unemployed. The protesters attempted to block the entrance to Parliament, however, they were prevented by the police.
අපි ඉල්ලන්නේ අගමැතිවරයා හෝ ජනාධිපතිවරයා අපි මේ ප්‍රශ්නවලට පැමිණිලා මේකට උත්තර දෙන්න කියන එක. මේක අර එහාට මෙහාට යවන බෝලේ පාස් කිරීමක් මිසක් අපේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට විසඳුමක් නැහැ කියන එක තමයි මේ වයින් තහවුරු වෙන්නේ.
After several hours of protesting at the Polduwa Junction, the crowd dispersed.
Newsfirst with the people.
The government yesterday revealed in Parliament a list of politicians who were connected to fuel stations that operate across the island. Several opposition parliamentarians responded to this revelation in Parliament today.
Case file.
Deputy Minister Arun Hemachandra yesterday tabled in Parliament a list of petrol sheds that are connected to opposition politicians or their close associates. This was the response to several names that were mentioned yesterday.
කිසිම දේශපාලන සම්බන්ධතාවයකින් ලබාගත් පිරුම්හලක් අපි සතුව නැහැ. මගේ පවුලේ පිරුම්හලක් ගැනයි මේ කියලා තියෙන්නේ. 1955 වසරේ මම උපදින්නත් ඉස්සර. මේ සභාවේ ඉන්න බොහෝ දෙනෙක් 2-3 දෙනෙක් කරනකොට උපදින්නත් පෙර අවුරුදු 70කට ඉස්සෙල්ලා මගේ පියාගේ පියා විසින් මේ පිරුම්හල ආරම්භ කරේ. එතෙන් පටන් අවුරුදු 70ක් අපේ පවුලේ උදවිය මේක පවත්වාගෙන යනවා.
Case file.
මට ෂෙඩ් එකක් නැහැ. මම ඉපදෙන්නත් කලින් මගේ 100ට ෂෙඩ් එකක් තිබිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ෂෙඩ් එක දැන් නැහැ. 100ට ෂෙඩ් එක ලැබිලා තියෙන්නේ මගේ තාත්තා කසාද වදින්නත් කලින්. තාත්තට ළමයි හම්බෙන්නත් කලින්. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ඉපදෙන්නත් කලින්. ඥාතීන් ව්‍යාපාරිකයින් හැටියට නොයෙක් ව්‍යාපාර කරනවා. ඒක මේ දේශපාලන සම්බන්ධතා කියලා අපේ නම ගාලා එහෙම වෛරය පතුරවන මේ ක්‍රමය කරුණාකරලා නතර කරන්න.
Case file.
මට ෂෙඩ් එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා ප්‍රකාශ වුණා. ඒ ගරු කතානායක සභාපතිතුමාත් පොළොන්නරුවේ. ඔබතුමා හොඳටම දන්නවා මට ෂෙඩ් එකක් තියෙනවද නැද්ද කියන එක. මේක පොළොන්නරුවේ ඉන්න මගේ ආදරණීය ජනතාව දන්නවා මට ෂෙඩ් එකක් නැහැ කියන එක.
Case file.
Meanwhile, former Deputy Minister Lal Dharmapriya Gamage had written a letter to Deputy Minister Arun Hemachandra that the fuel station said to be owned by him was built by his father in 1957. He goes on to note that the government had acquired this fuel station in 1972 and the government that came into power in 1977 had given the fuel station to his brother to address the injustice that was caused.
The local government election Sri Lanka 2025.
Accepting bonds for the local government elections began yesterday. The Election Commission has announced that nominations will be accepted from the 17th of March to the 20th until 12 noon.
Some political parties have already begun submitting nominations. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumna is conducting interviews to select candidates for local government. The interviews to select candidates for local government bodies in the Western Province were held at the party office located in Nilumawatha, Batharamulla.
අපි පසු බහින්න අපි ජනතාවට ලං වෙනවා. ඒ මම හිතන්නේ ඉදිරි කාල සීමාව තුලත් අපි ජනතාව එක්ක ලං වෙලා ජනතාවට අහුම්කම් දීලා අපේ පක්ෂ ගොඩනැගීම වැඩපිළිවෙල අපි ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා.
දැනට අපි ඉන්නවා මතයක් පොහොට්ටුව ලක්නේ මුළු ලංකාවම තරඟ කරනවා කියන එක. හැබැයි සමහරක් විට උතුරු නැගෙනහිර අපේ සහෝදර පක්ෂ සමග දැනට සාකච්ඡාවක් යනවා. යම්කිසි පොඩි වෙනස්කමක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
General Secretary of SJB Ranjit Madhavu Bandara says that under the leadership of Sajid Premadasa, the current leader of the SJB, the party is ready to compete in any election in the future.
ජනතාවට 43 ලක්ෂයක් කැමැති ප්‍රකාශ කරලා තියෙනවා. පාර්ලිමේන්තු ආසන 40ක් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමා තමයි විපක්ෂ නායකයා. ඒ නායකත්වයට තමයි ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්නේ. මොකද්ද තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න? මැතිවරණ ඉතිහාසය ගත්තොත් මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාලා චන්ද්‍රිකා කුමාරතුංග මැතිණියන් අවුරුදු 17ක් මැතිවරණ කර දුන්නා. එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයත් එහෙමයි නේද? ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණ 1965 මට මතක විදිහට පටන් ගත්තේ. ඉතින් දිගටම කර දුන්නානේ. අවුරුදු 5යි.
ආයතනවලට තරම් කරන්න. විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ මැතිවරණයේදී අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ සමවිධන සම්දානයේ හැටියට දුරකථනයේ ලකුණෙන් ඒ සෑම පළාත් පාලන ආයතනයකටම තරම් කරන්න.
Meanwhile, Attorney Thalata Athukorala, the General Secretary of the United National Party, has issued a notice calling for young candidates to contest in the local government elections. In the notice, she has invited the generation that fought for the country, marking a proud beginning. At a media briefing today, the People's Alliance announced that they will contest the election as a coalition under the symbol of the chair.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයට අමතරව මේ සඳහා
In addition to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, the political parties united in this coalition are the Lanka Samasamaja Party, Elam People's Democratic Party, Sri Lanka People's Party and the Desha Vimukti Janata Party. Furthermore, SMM Mushraf representing the ACMS, S. Vyalendran representing the MPK Tamil Party and the party represented by Nasir Ahmed have also joined this coalition. Notably, a group of 15 former members of parliament who had previously worked with the SLPP have united with this alliance under the leadership of former parliamentarian Honorable Priyadarshana Yapa.
අන්ඩ්‍රයාපා මැතිතුමාගේ නායකත්වයෙන් මෙම සන්ධානයට ඒකරාශී වෙලා තිබෙනවා.
Meanwhile, the Lanka Tamil Arsa Katchi has announced its intention to contest for the Colombo Municipal Council in the local government elections.
ඔබතුමන්ලා කොළඹින් ඡන්දයට එනවද?
ඔව් දැන් කොළඹ මහනගර සභාවට අපි ඡන්දය ඉල්ලනවා කියලා තීරණය අරන් තියෙනවා.
The European Union, in collaboration with the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development and the government of Sri Lanka, launched the 3-day circular economy in the food sector program aimed at tackling food losses and reducing food and single-use plastic waste in Colombo. A collaborative initiative to promote a circular food economy with funding and support from the European Union, Germany's Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development and the Sri Lankan government was held in Colombo today.
So as we go along, let's have an open mind, let's be interested, let's look for ideas, let's look for new ideas, let's look for new priorities, commitments, and look again at the implementation of all of this. We are very happy to have this new program finally in place. It's a strong additional element of our Global Gateway strategy worldwide and here in Sri Lanka. We will work together. That means the government of Sri Lanka and the EU to provide guidance to this program.
Promoting a circular economy within the nation's food sector could eventually help reduce waste, optimize resources, strengthen food security, preserve and nurture biodiversity, and promote better health. Adopting circular economy models has also many economic advantages. The adoption of a more efficient and circular agriculture model will reduce the pressure on resources, especially on land use. You know, land is one of the most scarce resources. So circular encourages regeneration of the soil system and the ecosystems. This new program is the beginning of a very important journey to transform the way we work, the way we achieve food security, and the way food systems become sustainable and inclusive.
For developing nations,
As the scale and complexity of these challenges continue to grow, food scarcity and food insecurity remain pressing global concerns, and Sri Lanka is not immune to these issues. This is why the European Union's commitment to initiatives like Circular is so significant. Sri Lanka has always been known for innovation and entrepreneurship. Through this initiative, we aim to incubate and scale homegrown solutions not only for domestic implementation but also for international adoption. We are confident that partnerships like these will further strengthen our ties with the EU, a global leader in sustainability.
The circular economy in the food sector program reduces single-use plastics and food waste, promotes circular economy, supports SMEs and fosters sustainable, youth-driven innovation in Sri Lanka's food sector.
And that's a wrap of Prime Time News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Good night.